Free Japan Channel, number 67. Today, March 21st, Friday here in Yokohama. The time is 5 p.m. The sunset is seen from here. It's a very beautiful scene of sunset in Yokohama. Dear listeners, how are you? Today's topic is Kennedy Files Revealed. This is a theme of today's FJC. John F. Kennedy, the President of the United States, was assassinated in November in Dallas, Texas, in 1963. He was President of the United States and was planning to run for the next presidential campaign. And Texas was a place where historically Republicans are influential, more strong, more powerful, stronger than Democrats. Therefore, President Kennedy at that time decided to go to Dallas to gather the support to Democrat Party of the United States. On that day, the president arrived at Dallas airport, and after that, he rode on the limousine car, especially made for the President of the United States. It was open car, so we can see through the film that President Kennedy and his wife, Jacqueline Kennedy, were both happily greeting to the people on the streets. The popularity of John F. Kennedy was such that so many people were cheering on both sides of the street, and the limousine car was proceeding to the destination on that day. It was about 11 o'clock or noon. The limousine car turned right, and then the car was a bit speeding. Suddenly, there were 3 shots behind, and President Kennedy was killed. This scene was filmed by the private movie maker, and this film showed us how exactly the assassination was attempted. It was a very cruel film. Therefore, I don't recommend that you listeners should watch it. However, this was the reality of the assassination of JFK. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested for the murder of JFK soon after the accident or soon after the assassination. And this person, Oswald, reiterated that he did nothing about the assassination. Personally speaking, I think that Oswald was involved in the assassination, and perhaps he shot 1 or 2 bullets aimed at President Kennedy. However, I also think that there are some other shooters, 1 or 2 shooters around that spot. Therefore, Oswald shot 1 or 2 bullets. However, the other bullets was shot by anonymous other shooters. This is my guess, prediction about the assassination of JFK. Oswald was in the USSR. At the time, Soviet Union was the country where normal Americans couldn't go there. However, Oswald did go to the Soviet Union and lived there and found a mate and married Russian girl. This couple had one daughter later. Curiously speaking, this Oswald came back to the United States. It was a kind of feat that ordinary American did such a thing, go to the Soviet Union and then come back. Oswald did it. Therefore, he was living at that time in Dallas with his family. Before the USSR, Oswald was temporarily staying at Atsugi in Japan. So Atsugi is very near from this Yokohama city. And Atsugi base, Atsugi is the city where the US base is located. And Oswald was working there as an intelligence agent. Therefore, he was familiar with information or intelligence. So he may be familiar with some kind of espionage activity. After Atsugi, he went to Moscow. So this is a very curious route, isn't it? Oswald was in Japan, and then in the Soviet Union, then United States. Even after returning to United States, he went to Mexico, for example, to meet somebody there, perhaps intelligent agents of unknown country. Therefore, Oswald is a very dubious suspect. And US police was also able to spot him from the very early time that he was a suspected murderer. And on the way of fleeing from the police, Oswald shot one policeman, and this policeman was killed by his bullet. Oswald was arrested in the movie theater on that day. However, Oswald was killed by Jack Ruby, another person who was also involved in this JFK assassination. And Jack Ruby died after 1 year or half under 1 year. Therefore, nobody knows the real intention of Oswald. Was he really involved in the great scheme of assassination, or did he do it all spontaneously? Was he a loner, or was he one person of the concerted attempt? President Trump ordered to review the classified JFK files this time, and now we know that Oswald was really associated with CIA, Central Intelligence Agency of the United States. Oswald was an agent or associate of CIA. Then, did CIA order the assassination of JFK to Oswald? We don't know that. We only know that Oswald was related to CIA. That's all. Until now. From now on, this Kennedy files will be disclosed little by little. There might be some news or article which will shock the entire world. We don't know that. Now we have to wait for the whole disclosure of the Kennedy files, which was clandestine until now. Assassination of John F. Kennedy is one of the most mysterious and most concealed assassination or events in the post-war period. It is good news that some light will be shed to this accident in some way. However, the so-called Kennedy files are now not so sufficient enough to reveal the real criminal or real plot writer behind the assassination. What we can do is wait for another crucial information from this file. Thank you.